Turbo conquering Mega Eagle. Alright then folks, one of the reasons I bought my lovely truck is because it is so basic, and it's probably one of the last manual pumped diesels to be sold for road use in the UK. You know, it's a 2003 motor, but it's still got an old-fashioned diesel pump, which I love. There's like 2 or 3 wires going to the engine. It's not great on fuel, but I don't drive it hard. You know, I used to be a bit of a tow rag with cars and that, but yeah, I've really calmed down recently, and I just drive this thing around 50 tops. Even on the motorway, you know, I'll just take it nice and steady, and it's going to last me forever, is what I thought. But now these fuckers, it's mainly to do with this bastard in London. He's fucked up London transport. The amount of cars on the road have gone up, and he's blaming older diesels, despite the fact they're banned from London anyway, from causing the pollution. So now nationwide, they've just started doing emissions tests on old diesels, you know, which, you know, like, it's the same basic design of engine as the very early diesels. There's nothing fundamentally different from this engine to a, you know, a sort of fucking 1917 Gardner diesel. Like, it might be built a little bit different, but everything else is the same. Either way, it used to just be a no excessive smoke rule, yeah. But now there's an actual sniffer test where they put a probe up your pipe and check you're not putting out too many nitrous oxides and that, but which is again stupid, because they've got low emission zones in the cities, and anyone with half a brain knows that the city pollutants are only a problem in built up areas where they can't disperse and you've got loads of vehicles. Like, it does not matter to the rest of the world. In actual fact, pulling old motors off the road early before they've done their mileage is more harmful for the environment. Yeah, if you're bothered about that, you know, you get as much mileage out of a vehicle as possible, because making new vehicles uses a huge amount of fucking energy. You know, like, it's common sense. It's common sense, but these idiots can't see it. Me, I'm not so fussed. I just want to live my life without getting hassled by idiots who are so short-sighted either way. Like, let's go through what I'm going to do to get it through its emissions test, because it failed. You know, so we'll have to give it a little bit of fettling, and I'm pretty sure we'll get it through. But you know, these are things anyone can apply to their old diesel if you're also struggling with this situation. Yeah. Okay, first thing we're going to do before we start changing filters and stuff is check some fundamentals of the engine. You know, the real basics, the fundamental things that are going to cause us problems apart from the filters. We're gonna fire the engine up, let it warm up for a bit, because we're going to have to rev it a bit to check some leaks on the upper deck side of the turbo in it. Yeah? So we're also at the same time going to check the engine's not breathing, and you know, by that I mean we're not getting excessive venting out of the crankcase. So we're going to just hold our hand over the oil cap with the engine running, and if there's a lot of wear on the cylinders, we'll get oil spitting out of there, you know. But just the basics. So fire the engine up, and then we're going to look all along the if you follow the turbo, we've got air filter there that's going into the induction side of the turbo, and then all the upper deck is you know, the hosing from the outlet of the turbo going down to the intercooler. We've got an old-fashioned steel intercooler on this. I've just noticed the mounts for the intercooler are a bit ropey, and then more hose back around here and up to the inlet manifold. So we want to check none of that's leaking, basically, because that'll upset the fueling, basically. You know, if we got a turbocharged engine and not all that upper deck pressure is getting to the engine, then we're going to run a bit rich and not quite so clean. Okay, there's nothing really badly wrong with this engine. Right, we've determined that much, yeah. And if you drive the car a lot anyway, then you're gonna pick up on stuff like that, but or maybe not. Either way, there's no big problems with the turbo side of things, and we're not pumping out loads of oil. You know, we've not got a lot of blow by the rings and that. So our next step's going to be changing all the filters. I've got a new oil filter, a new fuel filter as well, and the air filter. The air filter is going to be the one. Air and oil are going to be the ones that make the biggest difference to the emissions and that. So we'll change all that. We've got old and new air filter, like kind of what you'd expect. It's not particularly choked or anything, but you know, a new one's going to help things. It might not solve the problem completely, but it's definitely going to help. Okay, I've got the oil out now. It's pretty mucky. I've got the filter off. What I'm going to do is flush the engine out. Yeah. Now I know you can get a lot of engine flush fluids and that to put through the oil system and that. Personally, I don't think they're a very good idea at all, isn't it? They're quite aggressive, and they'll dislodge the sort of stuff that is best off just left well alone, isn't it? Yet at the same time, they're not aggressive enough to really unseat the carbon build up in piston rings and stuff, which is where, you know, problems like I'm having will come from. You know, like carburized deposits around the rings. So the method I've always favoured is by just doing a double oil change, basically. So what I'm going to do now, I've got some old tractor oil. Like, it's the right grade, and that is what I used to put in my Isuzu Troopers, because I used to just buy Isuzu Troopers for a few £100. You know, if they were worth saving, I'd pull the body off, weld the chassis up, and then throw them back together and just fucking run them till they hit 300,000 miles. And you know, they're normally still going after that, but if you could buy another one for for a few hundred quid, then I'd normally just do that and combine all the best bits of them, isn't it? I got through a few of them like that. But I think there's only ever one chassis, because I plated one chassis. Either way, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And I've also got a really cheap oil filter. So the idea now is to do a thorough engine flush, and I'm going to take it down the road and just drive it really hard. So you know, if I have got build-ups around the rings and that, a good thrashing with some fresh oil in there, and then I'll come back, drop that oil out and put some diesel oil in, and you know, that'll be as clean as this engine's ever going to get without being stripped down. Okay, so I've given it a good thrashing into town and back. I've done about 20 miles, tried to keep the revs as high as possible. The engine is roasty toasty now, so I'm probably going to burn myself, but I just thought we'd look, that's the oil. This is the second oil change here, coming out black again. Which is what happens with old engines, you know, the tolerances are wide and that. You never get all the oil out when you do a drain, which is why I think those flushes are bad, isn't it? Because you end up leaving some of that caustic stuff in the engine, and if it has shook any particulates loose, that, you know, heavy chunks of shit that and you only drain the oil once, then they're going to stay in the engine, aren't they? They're going to be rattling around in there, end up going through the oil pump and that. You've got the oil pump before it goes through the filter normally, so yeah, always, I think. You know, the filter's pressurised, so you got to think, if you dislodge a load of muck, then you want to get it out of the engine. You want to be certain that you get it out of the engine. I think, you know, this is the best way of doing it. Unless you're going to do a flush, put the flushing stuff in, and then put another load of oil in afterwards. That'd probably be alright. That'd be a nice way of doing it. But I was just saying, you really need the volume to drag out all the shit, don't you? One little tin of Wins isn't going to do it. Anyway, it's black as you're at, mate, innit? That's only been in there 20 miles. Okay, I've got myself some decent oil now to replace the flush oil that I just drained out. There's a couple of things here. Like, obviously the grade's always important. If you get the wrong grade, the oil's going to be hotter or colder, and it's going to get past the rings. Yeah. Probably the most important thing is, like, considering we're doing all this so we can take it for an MOT and beat the emissions test, is to put the right amount of fuel in. And I don't mean fill it up as far as the dipstick's concerned, but if you've had the car for a little while, you will know where the oil naturally sits, yeah? Especially in older vehicles. If you top it right up, it's going to be a month or two and it will slowly work down to a level, and then it should just stay there, yeah? So on this truck, I know that oil's happiest halfway between the full and empty, you know, the high and low marks, yeah? So if I were to put all the oil in and fill it right up, yeah, then that oil's going to go somewhere over the next month or so until it reaches its happy spot again. But the thing is, the only place it can go is either past the rings or through the breather and then out the pipe, which is where they're doing the emissions test. Now, seeing as though I'm going to test it, take it back for a retest as soon as I've topped the oil up, if I overfill it, as in even if I don't overfill it according to the marks, if I overfill it according to what I know is right for this engine, then it's going to be venting all that shit out onto the test man's probe, innit? Like, he's up his little thing, he's sticking out my pipe. So really important now. This is I don't know. Apart from actually putting fresh oil in there, this is going to be one of the more important steps that you can easily get right or wrong. So here we go. Fail sheet, pass sheet. All it took to get this motor for its MOT was basically a service, yeah. You know, I didn't find any fault with the induction side of things, and what, you know, the bores aren't worn, so it wasn't breathing oil. But you know, it's definitely worth checking those things as well, especially if you know it's serviced, and it should be okay. I think you know, it's also very important to not put too much oil in, and I don't mean going past the max level. I mean just going to where the vehicle's, you know, natural oil level is. Right. I did get a set of injector washers. Right. If it is still smoky after you know, giving it a service, I would have pulled the injectors down. Normally you can clean the heat shields on those injectors pretty easy. If you've got the rest of it crudded up as well, then right, you just need to go to Argos and get one of their ultrasonic jewellery cleaners. It's the cheapest way of getting an ultrasonic cleaner, and normally you can you know, the pintle and stuff and the injector will fit in those ultrasonic cleaners. Yeah. Don't use the fluid that comes with them, because that's caustic. That's for cleaning, you know, like inert metals like gold and stuff, and it won't do steel any good. But just deionised water's fine. Oh God, that's about it, folks. Hey, I hope this has been useful to some old diesel owners. I'm going to start timing my services, right, to just before the MOT. I wish I'd known about this, because I would have given it a bloody good service, like, and a flush. Before I took it the first time, but hopefully this alerts a few of you what's going on, and you know, if your car does fail, then it's pretty easy to do those basic things anyway, and hopefully it's nothing more major. Hey folks, anyway, sorry about the ranting earlier. It has pissed me off. I'm kind of tempted to do a little bit of research and compile a video on, like, you know, the total cost as far as energy consumption goes, as far as producing a brand new vehicle, and then try and you know, look at the waste of scrapping a vehicle prematurely because the government say you has to, as opposed to letting it run its you know, its natural life, and then hopefully only scrapping it at 250, 300,000 miles, something like that, you know, versus 100,000 miles, which is what's happening to a lot of vehicles now. Anyway, alright, I hope this is useful, folks. Bye bye.